Okay, well, let's take a look at the government's reaction to the coronavirus. We took the live daily press conference chaired by Dominic Raab. Let's get political reaction to that from the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. Welcome to Talk Radio, sir.
Good evening. Nice to speak to you.
It's very good to have you on the show. You're one of the most respected politicians in the country. You might have been Labour leader twice, pipped to the post by Ed Miliband in, the early 20s. It was a long... what was it, 2012? 2010. Thank you so much. I'm on Twitter. I'm on the old Wikipedia here. And then, second time, pipped to the post by Jeremy Corbyn. And I'm just thinking, if you'd won that election, probably there would be no Brexit and you'd be Prime Minister right now.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's a very big if, isn't it? But, well, it's a tough job to be Prime Minister right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we're all living through times that I think we never imagined we'd ever see. It's important that normal politics is suspended for a while, isn't it? And we do pull together to get the country through this, as your listeners were just saying.
Well, absolutely right. And I'm wondering if you find it regrettable that there are leaked reports from within the Labour Party about the investigation into anti-Semitism and the idea that somehow those who were working against Jeremy Corbyn affected the anti-Semitism inquiry. I mean, the Labour Party doesn't need a civil war at this point. Surely a new leader of the opposition should be a moment of positivity for a political movement like Labour.
Yes, you would hope so, wouldn't you? And it was a surprise to see this report leaked yesterday. I was named in it, and I responded to something in it perhaps shouldn't have done, because it's not the moment, is it, to have an internal focus. Everything should be now on getting the country through this. And so I think the new leader, Keir Starmer, has done the right thing today in saying there'll be an inquiry into this leak and into this report more generally and the issues that it's raising. I think there are serious issues there around factionalism in the Labour Party, both on the right and on the left. But those are for another day. And I think the focus needs to come right back on to the things we just heard at the Downing Street press briefing.
Indeed. If you were leader of the opposition at this moment in time, would your approach be anything other than the tone set by Keir Starmer, which is to try to help the government fight this?
No, I would take the same approach. I think it's about being constructive but also challenging, because there are questions that need to be asked. The figure that leapt out for me from the briefing we just heard was 92 outbreaks of coronavirus in care homes over the last 24 hours. Now, that is a worrying figure, I would say. And there is this issue about getting protective equipment into our care homes. We're waiting for a delivery in Greater Manchester either today or tomorrow. If it doesn't arrive, I'm told that care homes will be running out again. So it's a bit of a hand-to-mouth operation at the moment, and I do worry that our care homes are really now in the front line of this crisis, and I am worried they're not properly equipped. So we want to work with the government to sort these problems out, but I do think in the longer run, the country needs to have a much bigger debate about the funding of social care coming out of this, because it's quite clearly not in a strong enough position to face what's being thrown at it right now.
Indeed. And now, earlier in the month, Mr. Burnham, Greater Manchester Police warned people not to breach lockdown rules over the Easter break that obviously we're just at the tail end of right now, as it's had to break up 660 parties during the pandemic from the 25th of March to the 7th of April. Would you say that situation has improved? What do you think about the citizens of Greater Manchester? Have they got the message now en masse to stay at home?
Definitely. I mean, obviously, I live here, and this weekend, the vast majority of people were fully observing the guidance. There were parties last weekend, and I've just been in touch with the Chief Constable, and there were some this weekend. I think it's happening all over the country. It's not unique to us. We just published the figures to get a focus on that minority of people who are still, I would say, selfishly ignoring the government guidance and putting themselves and others at risk. So there were more this weekend, but I think overall the picture was one of high levels of compliance, and I think that's the story really we should be saying. We should be thanking people for pulling together and doing the right thing in these difficult times.
It's one of my favourite parts of the country, the Northwest. You don't think it's an issue unique to the area that people just can't stop partying?
No, I mean, we do like to do that, as you know, the myth of the 24-hour party people. But no, I mean, you look at city centre Manchester, absolutely deserted. And we launched a streaming service to help people through this, United We Stream, and it broadcast a 12-hour hacienda house party on Saturday. And the feedback from that was amazing because people did stay in their homes, but it gave them a lift. So what we're trying to do is continue to promote what we're all about here and give our culture a platform. But I think the message is getting through to people. And as I say, the vast majority of people complied. And I think that's something that we should be thanking people for.
It clearly, as you mentioned in your previous answer, that the coronavirus may be affecting care homes in a slightly invisible way at the moment, but that doesn't make it any the less tragic when lives are lost. And it's obviously not just the residents of those care homes, but those working in them. How well supplied do the hospitals and wider medical services within Greater Manchester feel supplied at the moment? What's your sort of overview on access to protective equipment and just generally numbers of available medical staff to handle this?
I think the situation is better in our hospitals than it is in our care homes, although all report something of a hand-to-mouth existence with the supply. The continuity of supply is not there yet. So we will get deliveries and then uncertainty about when the next one will arrive. And I hope the government can put this right, and I would certainly make an offer to them to work with them to get this stuff distributed on an ongoing and regular basis. There's a very clear concern around the supply of gowns, in particularly the National Health Service at the moment, real shortage there. And as I say, everyone fears they're about to run out, and that then creates problems for how services are run. So, I do say to the government, we have to get this stuff flowing. And it seems to me that they haven't yet come up with a system that is giving people confidence. And that is just a fact. It's not a political point, it's just a fact. The people I speak to are still very worried about the continuity of supply of protective equipment, and that does need to improve.
To what extent, because you've always been, even when at the front line of Westminster politics, pretty even-handed in the way that you probe and attack the government or also the opposition. But the bottom line is, you're not necessarily prone to a sort of reactionary sort of opposition for opposition's sake attitude. But I mean, if you look at the slow rollout of testing compared to Germany, if you look at the serious lack of supply of this protective equipment for frontline workers, do you not feel the government have dropped the ball on this one?
I think there will be questions to ask about testing and about protective equipment. But I did deal with swine flu a decade ago for the then government, and that was nowhere near as stressful as this situation we're in now. And I made mistakes. We made mistakes. There can't be a perfect response to a pandemic. So I think you do have to, caveat everything that's said with that. It's a tough situation that they're in right now. And yeah, not everything is going right. The issue is how quickly are they correcting mistakes? And the thing for me is with the protective equipment, I think it's been pointed out for a few weeks now and it's still not corrected. And that's why we do need to challenge them on that particular issue. But no, overall, I think it's important that it's done in a constructive fashion, and we point things out to try and help the response improve. I think the government has listened throughout this. It has made changes as we've gone along, but I do think they need to build confidence around the supply of protective equipment because currently it's not there, and it needs to be there if we're all to continue to get through this together.
Before we let you go, Mayor, we must ask you about Keir Starmer. Obviously, he's now the new leader of the opposition. I wasn't speaking in jest when I said that the country and the party might look very different if you'd beaten Jeremy Corbyn. What's your overview of that era? Because in my view, a lot of fantastic Labour talent was lost or even hounded out by the Corbyn regime.
Well, I think the issue, as I said before, is too much factionalism, and that's on both sides of the party. There's a lot of people who seem to want to fight each other more than presenting a unified front to the country. And I think under Keir's leadership, actually, we have a chance to unite, because I think I would say, politically is in a place that I feel very aligned to, and I think a lot of Labour Party members. So in some ways, we've got a chance now to break through this this kind of infighting that the Labour Party has been bedeviled with for years, and I certainly will be doing everything I can to make that happen. But one of the reflections I did have on this report that came out was how the party had resisted a plan that I put forward for social care. And I'm not saying I got it completely right, but I was talking a decade ago about funding social care properly and aligning it fully with the National Health Service. And, beyond the party politics, I hope coming out of this that the country can find a new consensus on some of those big issues that we've never properly resolved. And I would like to see the Labour Party and the Conservative Party unite around a plan to bring social care into the National Health Service. I just think that will be such a positive thing to come from this moment that we're living through, and would actually show our party politics, which can be so petty and childish at times, is capable of solving some of these big issues that the country faces. And I think that would reflect well on both of the main political parties, and I hope they both will be able to do that.
The biggest political names here at Talk Radio. Andy Burnham, thank you so much for your time. Mayor of Greater Manchester. Interesting stuff. How different the world would look if he had beaten Jeremy Corbyn all those years ago.